Alright boys, I've taken some time out of my day playing Starfield to show you the new vehicles coming in the new Sons of Attilla update. The first one I'm going to be covering is the OH-58D, the Kiowa. This is coming after the Little Bird, and it has the exact same weapons as the Little Bird, basically just 4 AGM 114K Hellfires. Not really worth covering any of the other things. I guess you can take air-to-air missiles in it, but I don't think the bump in battle rating is worth. You basically just need to play this thing. It's got the exact same weapons, just minus the air-to-air basically loadout. Then I have the Chaparral. This is a funky little vehicle coming. It's coming after the Sergeant York, so it's in quite a good spot. You can use it with the XM1, I guess. A little bit of a niche battle rating to have. I believe it uses AIM-9Ds and AIM-9Ls, maybe. The second unlockable missile is an all-aspect one, so I'm assuming it's a 9L. The models do not change when you change it in this test drive. Then I have the USS Texas. This is a pretty famous battleship. I think it was made in World War I, then modernized in the 1940s. This is the 1945 model. It did survive the war and it is currently undergoing restoration. I believe they moved it out of its wet dock, put it into a dry dock for repairs. Anyway, we've got 10 14-inch guns, very long reload on it. It's going to be a little bit painful to play. The armor scheme isn't particularly good, to be honest. If we compare it to the Arizona here, it's, well, the more famous of the ships that got sunk in America, really. This has 330mm of armor on its, I remember it's called the barbette, sorry. This is only 304, 12 inches. Pretty decent. It's stepped down though compared to the Arizona. As you can see, it is before the Arizona in the tech tree. I don't know why Gaijin adds them in such a weird order. But yeah, very, very historical vehicle. You will be able to buoy people. Very high amount of crew, 1800. But I don't think it's going to be meta changing. Then have an incredibly poor choice of premium, in my opinion. We have the Arkansas. This thing has a lot less crew to start with compared to the Texas. I know your crew in naval is basically your hit points. Not technically, but it basically functions in that way. We have 12 12-inch guns, but we only have APC rounds, so not very good. The APC rounds only contain 11 kilos of TNT, so you're not really going to be dealing that much damage in this vehicle. The reload speed is also pretty long, if I remember correctly. We can get it down to just under 30 seconds with an ace crew. But you've got a very long reload rate for guns which are essentially pop guns on battleships. So very, very bad investment in my opinion. We then come on to the F-16C. This is coming after the A and the ADF models. But like the two planes, the ADF and the A, we can only carry 2 AIM-7Ms. We can't carry 4 AIM-7s and 4 AIM-9Ls. We are limited to just using the AIM-7s on this hardpoint right here. So not really going to recommend people grind this if you're just a top tier player. If you like American ground forces though and you're at top tier with the Abrams and stuff, then this is going to be a pretty much essential grind, to be honest. We can carry quite a plethora of different weapon systems. We can carry the AGM-65Ds, which are incredibly useful with the Lightning II pod. You can launch it at very, very long range. Good for actually launching missiles and acquiring targets. We also have a selection of laser-guided bombs as well. Basically, it's kind of like the F-14B that we got in the last patch, except we now get Mavericks, really. The F-16B is also... The F-16B is probably a better all-rounder, with the exception that you just can't carry the AGM-65Ds. For the Germans, we have another disappointment. We have the Leopard 2 PSO. For some reason, this is coming after the Leopard 2A6, despite being weaker in pretty much every way. In my opinion, the 2A6 should be here, and the Leopard 2 PSO should be folded with the 2A5. This thing is a Leopard 2A5, as you can tell by the shorter L44 cannon. Also has the DM53 round though, so you are going to still have good firepower. But again, I don't know why Gaijin adds them in such a weird order. They should be folded in, honestly. Does give Germany another backup at top tier, which I guess is always welcome. But again, not really going to be that groundbreaking. We then also have the East German Mi-8. This is quite an easy helicopter to get. You can just go straight down from the Alouette. If we take a look at the loadout, we can only carry the S5Ks, which are They've got a circular error probable of about 15 light years. They're incredibly inaccurate. Only 150mm of penetration with the heat warhead. Not really that useful. We can carry up to 3 Malutka rocket missiles. Only have a range of 3 kilometers. Do have decent penetration. I believe they're the same missiles found on the BMP. Could be wrong about that. Anyway, the Russian one that we'll look at shortly does get slightly better missiles. Another terrible investment in my opinion is the SMS Nassau. This thing has better rate of fire, slightly I believe, 20 seconds with an ace crew, which is pretty decent to be honest. But we do only have 11-inch guns. Again, we only have APC rounds, sorry. So you aren't going to be dishing out a huge amount of damage. We also have the SAP, which does make bullying light cruisers a little bit better. But again, the battle rating is 6.3. It could see down tiers where it could bully a little bit, but it's a lot of money to invest for. Most of your games are going to be 7.0, I believe. That's what it feels like when I play 6.3 heavy cruisers. Now finally we have the Drak or the Drake. It is a Yugoslavian design, I believe. And then the Germans just stole it and put it into their own service. Or I think it got destroyed. I remember reading about this somewhere ages ago. Anyway, it's a sub-chaser in the German Tetri. Most people don't even know this button exists right here. It's coming after the MZ1, which I didn't even know existed myself. Anyway, no one really gives a shit about that. Let's move on to the Russians. So the first vehicle for the Russians is the 2S1. This is seeing quite a lot of service in the ongoing Boogaloo over in that place in Soviet Eastern Europe, sort of. It's basically just a howitzer. It doesn't have a stabilized gun, so good luck trying to get kills with this. We also don't have indirect fire in War Thunder, so again, not particularly helpful. Nice vehicle to have. 51mm of penetration with 6.11 kilo warhead. You will be able to overpressure some light tanks, and if you can snipe some commander's hatches and stuff like that. Not a particularly useful vehicle, to be honest though. We also have a flame-throwing T-55, a battle rating 8.0. Not really too sure why they're trying to add this. It does have the fantastic BR-412D round, so it still will be an effective premium, but the flamethrower thing is a massive gimmick. We would have been able to use it with our 8.3 clubbing lineup last patch, but then they changed the T55 AM to be 8.7. I guess you could still use it. Well, 8.3 is still a viable lineup for the Soviets, if not 8.0 with the Sabo firing. I think this is the heat one. Anyway, getting sidetracked. It should be a decent little grinding premium, but just don't buy it for the flamethrowing ability. Then have the M8 TV. My dog is snoring, I apologise. This one gets the Phalanger. I believe this is the missile that you can find on the Mi-24Ds, if I'm remembering correctly. I might not be. Anyway, it's a pretty decent missile. It's got 4 kilometers range, so 1 kilometer more than the German missile. I believe it's got 100mm more penetration as well. Can still only carry the S5K rocket, so again, not really worth it. We do get bombs, incendiary bomb, napalm, that's what I was looking for, as well as some retarded bombs as well. So good all-rounder, but I'll show you in the Tetri as well to be. So this comes after the Mi-4, so a good little starting helicopter. You can basically use it like the AH-1G in the American Tetri, where you can just rush people at the start of the game. Then have probably the big bad boy of this update, the MiG-29 SMT. Kind of like the F-14B from last update, this just brings a multi-role functionality to the Soviet Tetri. If we just take a look at the air-to-air loadout here that I've made, we have 4 R-73s. Yes, that's the word I was looking for. 4 R-73s. These are incredibly highly maneuvering missiles. They're thrust-vectoring IR missiles. They can still be easily flirted, however. But the more spicy thing, in my opinion, is the R-27ET. This has the exact same range and speed as the ER missile, but it is IR. So it's going to be quite... you'll be able to... The same way that American mains can lock you with a AIM-7M and then just hold you lock onto target, you'll be able to do this with the R27ET. It's basically just an IR AIM-7M, really. It's probably going to guide better as well. You'll probably be able to flare it, but you'll be able to launch this at people head-on at a long way away, and they will have to maneuver. They can't just, like, notch it and chaff. Well, they could flare it, but it's a potential meta-threatening addition, to put it simply. A very long-range IR missile that is very fast and probably very resilient to flares and countermeasures. And finally, for the Russians, we have the Marat. This is basically just a Paris Commune, or the Paris Commune. Fluent in Russian, as you can probably tell. Not really. Anyway, probably, again, a pretty bad design. If you know anything about the Soviet Union, then they basically didn't have any... They couldn't design anything themselves. They just copied stuff that came before them. And this was a copy of a Imperial Russian... Well, they didn't build it themselves, actually. They just took it over in the 1917 and then never made any battleships from that. This thing was sunk in Leningrad, or partially sunk. I think like the back of it was sunk, but the front was still afloat, and they just used the forward guns, or something like that. Anyway, 12-inch guns, so a little bit better than the Nassau, but the fire rate, again, is similar to the Arkansas, around 2 rounds per minute, if I remember correctly. Yeah, basically the exact same fire rate as the Arkansas. These guns are a little bit better than that, though. We do at least get APC-BC. We also have a monster semi-armor piercing round as well, with over 55.2 kilos of TNT. The problem, though, is the fuse delay of 0.05 seconds, so that fuse will activate basically as soon as you hit an enemy ship. So it's not going to go that far inside of a ship and then detonate. It's not really going to be able to threaten the citadel. You're just going to blow holes in the outside, the non-vital parts of the ship. So while it looks very good on paper, probably not going to be that useful in game. The late unlock HE as well is also pretty good, with 55 kilos of TNT. It's kind of a... Same again with the APC-BC. Very short fuse delay, not really what you want. If you go back in the video and look at the APC-BC from the other battleships, they have a fuse delay of like 0.025 seconds or 0.035. It allows the shell to get inside the ship before it detonates and cause more damage, really. I'm sure the ship will be pretty effective. These types of ships are always they're very, very spongy for some reason. What I will say, though, is you look at the turret layout here. You see that the B and the D turret, or the B and the Z turret, they're facing backwards. If we look at the Imperial Maria, I believe, you'll see that the first 3 gun turrets are all facing forward. This means when you spawn into a match, obviously, when you spawn in, your enemies are going to be either over here or over here. So you'll be able to get those guns on target basically instantly, whereas the rear turret will have to go all the way around. And then if, say, you kill a guy over here, and then you have to go to another enemy here, your guns don't have to go all the way around. They can just go bloop, bloop. If you see what I'm trying to say. And with this premium ship, we do have these guns that are all the way back. So you are going to struggle to get all your guns on target if you've got multiple enemies on either side of you. Because obviously these guns just have to go past here, whereas these will have to go all the way around. A little bit of a design failing of the Russian, or the Imperial Russian, I believe. Anyway, getting sidetracked, that's my naval nerdy history coming out. Let's go on to the British, which isn't really that important because we get shafted. We don't get anything really this update apart from a worse Sea Harrier. We'll cover that first. It's worse than the event vehicle Sea Harrier just because we can only carry 2 AIM-9Ls. So we only get 2 AIM-9Ls or 2 AIM-9Gs with the same type of bomb loadout. It's not a terrible loadout, but I guess it is a low battle rating as well, but this thing shouldn't really be 10.7. And then we have the Bishma. This is actually probably the best armoured T90 currently in the game because we get rid of the stupid IR Dazzlers. So we actually have quite a substantial amount of protection from the front. If you just take a look, it doesn't really matter, but we take a look at the 3 BM60 rounds at 100 meters. Our turret cheeks are immune. I guess it's not particularly that amazing. It is 10.7 though, so it's pretty good. We do not get the 3BM46 or the 3BM6D though. We only get the 42 Mango. Still a very good round though, so we can't really complain too much. It's also it's got pretty good thermal imaging, but it is a T90, so we don't have a reverse gear. 4.6 kilometers per hour in reverse. Not really that effective in game. We also get a cool looking mine disposal unit, which I don't really think will do anything. But yeah, not really worth the grind in my opinion, unless you can buy it outright. Pretty nice to have in the tech tree though, but it's a bit random to add, I guess. Japan, we get one random vehicle. Thanks, Gaijin. Anyway, so Japan, coastal fleet, it's here. No one has ever seen this thing again. I've not even bothered grinding it. It's got two 40mm Bofors guns and 4 torpedoes. We don't get the late war proxy rounds. That's another L. And the missiles are actually, not the missiles, the torpedoes are incredibly slow in the water, only 44 kilometers per hour. So again, a completely forgettable addition to the Japanese tech tree. For the Chinese, we have another premium, the M41 Walker Bulldog. This does not get the Sabre round. We do only have an APBC round. So just watch out against enemies with angled armor because we do not have a cap on it. We only have the ballistic cap. Can't really explain very quickly what a cap does, but it basically aids with the penetration of angled armor. So just shoot for the flattest part of an enemy's armor layout with this. Should be pretty good though, 5.0. It's a big drop in battle rating compared to the regular M41, which is 6.0. So you might be able to bully some people. The only thing I'm worried about is the lineup at 5.0. Don't really seem to have one. Unless you want to main a Hong Kong or a PT-76. Kind of weird battle rating. We then have the MBT 2000. I believe this is the tank that Pakistan uses in a different name. I think it's called the Al-Khalid or something like that. Maybe I'm thinking of something else. We do get the DTC 10125, 577mm of penetration. Pretty good round, to be honest. It is. I actually do like this edition. It goes well with the ZTZ 96A. I think this round, that tank doesn't even get that round. That battle rating probably is going to increase in the future, which is a little bit sad. It would have been nice to have a backup with the ZTC 96A and then the prototype version. If it does go in at 10.0 though, I would be very surprised. The round is incredibly good and we do have an incredibly powerful engine. We then have the OH58D. This is basically the same one as that's in the American tech tree. We get 4 Hellfires, which it's a lot better in this tech tree than the American one. It's 10.3 and it's a lot better equipped than the Z9WR. I guess this one does get 8 missiles compared to the 4 of the Kiowa, but the missiles on the OH58 are a lot better. The Hellfire missiles are a lot better than any in the Chinese tech tree. We then have the star of the update, I guess, the Hungarian line. This is the top vehicle, the KF41. Basically just a Puma from the German tech tree with spike missiles. So this is probably going to be coming to the German tech tree in some form, or basically this with spikes. Exact same gun, I believe. So we get the 30mm gun with the PMC 287s, 120mm pen. You know this thing from the Puma, except this now has a lot of composite armor, so it's going to be even more annoying to kill. As you can see, same Puma layout. I think this also does get the IR Dazzler, so going to be quite hard to target this thing with helicopters with SAKO missiles. The spikes are pretty decent though. Just don't fall for the gimmick. While they do have very high penetration and they are fire and forget, the weakness is in the name, the fire and forget. You can't aim for enemies' weak spots. Most of like the self-guiding anti-tank missiles, they tend to go towards like the thickest part of a tank's armor, like the turret cheeks, the barrel, or the upper frontal plate. So it does tend to get a one-shot kill unless you are shooting at like an enemy that's driving horizontally from you. So just be aware, nice little addition here. Probably going to be a little bit of a gimmick though with the spikes. Then have a Leopard 2A4. I'm not really going to cover this. You already know what it is. DM23. Same as Brit. Basically, this is the new Sherman. Every nation's soon going to get a Leopard 2A4 somehow. Oh, misclick. But then also have a T72M1. Another T72A. Same that's found in the German tech tree. Not really that useful at 9.3. I think we only get the DM22, sorry. Fairly powerful round, but at 9.3 you are going to get dragged up to 10.0 and get bullied. BTR as well, same as in the Soviet tech tree, except we do get some sandbags now. The Soviets have advanced from using infantry as additional protection to now using sandbags, I guess. Same gun with APDS unstabilized. I don't see why this one is 7.3. Isn't the Soviet one 7.0? Or am I misinformed? No, I am misinformed. I apologize for that. So just a Soviet BTR 80 in the Italian tech tree. The Italians aren't really short of mobility though, so I guess you can use this thing to even more mobility. Then get an Italian 2S31, also at 6.0. Not really going to be looking forward to this, not really that fun. Then have a Turan 3, which kind of looks like a Panzer 4. You get a 75mm gun with a very high powerful round. 145mm of penetration with 29 grams of TNT. Nice little tank, however it is very, very tall. You're going to stand out like a red thumb. Or a sore thumb, that's the term, isn't it? I do believe that this top plate here is incredibly thin, so major weak spot. Anybody with APHE is going to be able to splash all your crew here. Maybe the fact the tank is so high though, you'll be shooting it from like here, so it might just auto bounce. Who knows though. We also have the Zarini, or however you pronounce it. This is same as the premium that we got from one of the events a while ago, except this now has a 105mm gun. So if you've ever played World of Tanks, it's kind of like the Stug 3 with that 105 gun that it had. That's a long time ago since I played that game. We do also have a heat round though, with 120mm of penetration. I'm guessing the reload in this is going to be quite long. 10-second with an ace crew, it's not too bad, I guess, but quite lower to the ground as well, so you should be pretty sneaky. We then have the Turan 1. This thing has a 40mm Mavag gun. Does get APHEBC. 70mm of penetration, not the best, but if you ever played the British tech tree, you'll have to be using the 40mm. I can't remember. It's such a bad gun. It gives me nightmares thinking about that. You have to use that up to like 3.7 or something with the Churchills. So certainly workable. You also get an APBC round as well with a little bit more penetration, but no explosive filler. Italy's also getting 2 more SBAAs. We get the ZSU 57-2. Again, like the Leopard 2A4, every nation seems to be getting one of these now. Then also get the ZS-23-4, the Shilka. Nice additions, not really groundbreaking. Does fill a little bit of a void with the Italian anti-air loadout. I guess you do have the Sedan, which basically is probably a little bit better. ZSU 57 though at 7.0. You can use it with the M47 as well as some of the other vehicles. Never use this thing, bloody hell. France once again is hated probably just as much as Britain by the Guardian developers. AMX-10M, it looks like a tank destroyer, but guess what? It fires missiles for some reason. I have no idea why they designed this tank. It might be quite low profile. Doesn't really seem it though compared to the thing. Again, why would you ever want to play this? The Acro is bad enough, so why would you? I don't understand. I really don't know what the trap playing at. We do also have the Leclerc Azure. This is coming after the S21. It's basically just an urban survivability upgrade for the Leclercs, or Leclercs. It gets the Azure ERA, which, how much does it give us? Doesn't actually show us. That's great, Guardian. Thanks for that. Anyway, it's just a heavier Leclerc. with the exact same main gun round. If I click the right one. So we do only get the FL. Not a bad round by any means. We still also have the 6-second autoloader that's found in pretty much, well, all of the Leclercs, to be honest. Pretty decent backup tank. Not really sure. I don't think French player is going to be particularly happy, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. For the Swedish, we do get the PVK-V4. Gets a 57mm gun with SAKO and APHEBC. The SAKO is very good, 180mm of penetration. The APHE is also decent, but it's quite lacking in penetration, but we do get 60 grams of TNT filler. Nice 3.7 lineup, to be honest. It probably is going to go in fantastically well with the SAV and then the T-34 and the Panzer IV. Don't know why these are folded. They're completely different tanks, but you do you, Gaijin. That's all we have for the Swedish tech tree. We don't have anything coming for the planes unless they add it at a later stage of the tech tree. And finishing with the Israelis, we don't want to... I'll cock block you a little bit and tease you. We get another one of these things. Except instead of getting the AIM-9D and the AIM-9L, I think we do get another option, which is the Stinger air-to-air missiles. These things, there's not really too much different between them. I do think though that this one gets ECCM. You see this one, the AIM-9L, it doesn't get the ECM, which the Stingers do have, so this is probably the better bet. This is also 10.3 compared to 9.3 found on the American one. So that is probably the reason this thing gets Stingers and the American one doesn't. And to finish the video, the Israelis are getting a 2-seat version of the F-16. I don't think this plane looks good at all. I think it looks incredibly ugly. It looks so bad that I'd have thought that someone from Britain designed it. So this thing doesn't get... It doesn't get the Python 3s or the AIM-7Ms, so like the Net, is it, I believe? Yeah, the Nets. Like the Net, it doesn't get any semi-active radar homing missiles, so a little bit of a disappointment, to be honest. But like the F-16C, we do have the ability to carry a selection of weapons, including laser-guided bombs. This plane can carry 8 at a time. If we just edit this loadout here, we can see that we can put on 8 GBU-12s, which does give us a huge amount of firepower in a top tier ground realistic battle. I am going to think that this will get Pythons in the future. I don't see any reason why it couldn't carry them other than balance reasons, but I don't think anyone's going to be thinking that this plane's going to be overbalanced. I'm not really too sure what the block model... Oh, it's block 40 actually. Yeah, block 40. Probably has a little bit better engine than the Nets in it, but it's going to be heavier. So, again, basically just like an F-14B, it's a ground strike, well, not a ground strike version, but it brings you a multi-role functionality to the Israeli tech tree. So, that's pretty much it, boys. I hope you enjoyed this quick little overview. Hopefully I didn't take up too much of your time. Thanks for your watching. I'm going to go back to Starfield now and bully some Crimson Fleet people. Thanks, lads. See you later.